Hello guys, welcome back. This is David. I do hope you're doing well. Results are out from CFL Level 3. Massive congratulations if you made it through. If you need to retake though, do you retake in August 2024? Or guys, what are the benefits perhaps of leaving it until February? Let's check it out. Now, firstly, those who got through, as in recent exam seasons, less than 50% have passed, pretty close to 49% this particular season, which is pretty close to what it's been for a little while. Now, if you have passed, just a few pointers. Obviously, your work experience is going to be one of the first things to check out and to submit. You can check out the CFA website's guidance, a self-assessment tool about that. Pretty broad, relatively straightforward for most people. Again, of course, your charter's coming, the famous scroll. I recommend you think seriously about doing something with it, whether you're going to frame it, that kind of thing, rather than kind of storing it in the scroll somewhere and losing it. You spend that much time on it. Important to recognize that achievement, I think. You're through the program. Very useful to kind of reflect on what you've put in and the challenges, and you got through the other end as well. So and life carries on. A new chapter begins, of course. But I want to talk here to those who are retaking. Now, the first thing to say about retaking itself, remember, think of it like a slight delay. It might only be 6 months or a few months longer. The point is to make sure that it works for you, that you kind of optimize your study time and how it's going to fit in with your life. So what I've got here are a bit of a comparison between number one. Do you do it in August? Number two, do you defer and do it relatively soon after that in February with the new changes? Now, the new changes are only partly been explained and released. Some of the information is only going to be available to you as a candidate. Registration May the 9th, so it's coming pretty soon. But what I've got here, guys, based upon the publicly available information, just giving you some guidance that could be useful. Now, the first thing I want to pick up on, guys, here is time to study. Now, depending upon what you've got in your life and what you've got going on, you may be busy in the summer or you might be busy for the other exam as well in February, but there's the exam windows here. And there's quite a difference in your study time. Let me give you an example of that. The classes that we have already started for August. The weekly classes have already been going for a couple of weeks, so you're kind of trying to catch up, and that might find that your study time is more constrained or limited if you're going to try and resit perhaps in August. So my advice would always be give yourself plenty of time. Don't be rushing. Don't try and limit your study, your practice time. And that's probably why February kind of might win the day as far as giving yourself more time. Second thing you might be thinking of is, yeah, but David, what about the content? If I go to February next year, will the content all change? And the answer is not if you don't want it to. No, you can keep the same content. The portfolio management route that's been level three, all the way through the life of level three, that's still remaining as one of the pathways. So the core plus the portfolio management pathway kind of equals what we have at the moment, very, very similar. So, do you have to do it in August just to keep the same content? No, no, you don't. Guys, you could do the very same content but give yourself more time, which I think would be very, very valuable. Also, we're going to have a look at, you might say, for example, work in real estate or infrastructure. Met many candidates who don't work in traditional portfolio management, and choosing real estate or infrastructure, they're going to be topics in the new private markets pathway. And that might be far more relevant to your career, to what you're interested in as well, coming in down here as well. So why learn stuff you're never going to use? Why not learn the stuff that's more relevant to you in your industry? Also, perhaps you work more in private wealth with private clients, well, either as an institutional investor or as a private investor. A lot of the concepts are pretty similar here, but with the private clients, especially private wealth, maybe you're involved in a wider range of things, whether it's inheritance tax planning, estate planning, or whether it's looking at a wider range of wealth issues. For example, if you work with ultra high net worth, for example, that kind of area, many of the issues are very, very relevant here as well. So the contents itself, you have a choice, you have this fork, a chance to tailor the program to you. Now, the core, of course, we're going to see in a moment, is common. We call it the common core, common to all pathways. Then you add on the next part. Next thing, really important, I would say, would be you and how you found the content. Now, if you're someone that have found, say, for example, fixed income very, very tough, maybe it's something, I don't know, you don't work in, you've no real experience in, maybe that might be one of those roadblocks in level 3 you don't fancy facing again. Is there a way around that? Well, the answer is, well, yes. Choosing, for example, the private markets pathway or the private wealth pathway, you'd only really see a small amount of fixed income rather than what you have right now. If you choose the portfolio management pathway, you're going to get exactly what we have at the moment. And of course, fixed income, one of the most challenging areas for some people. Again, equity again will also be in the portfolio management pathway, trading and execution. Not normally the toughest areas, those two I wouldn't say. So it depends an awful lot on your strengths and weaknesses. If you did find fixed income was perhaps one of the major roadblocks, you might think carefully about choosing a different pathway. And finally, probably one of the most important ones to me would be choosing a pathway that you're interested in studying. Having an interest in an area makes a whole lot of difference, whether it's very much down the private markets, real estate, areas of infrastructure, private equity, private debt, for example. So what I want to do, guys, just to finish off, show you each pathway, what they've disclosed so far before revealing the content on May the 9th. First thing to talk about would be the common core. They've got the common core, common to all 3 pathways. And might be surprising to you, but this content in here is going to be almost the same, very similar to what you've got in level 3, say February 2024 and August as well. Now, there are a couple of new readings. That's it. Not a great deal. The content, though, very, very similar. Notice, guys, that what we're saying, guys, here then, 2/3 or so, up to 3/4, the same as you've had before. They haven't broken down all the individual topics, but as I say, if you're doing the common core, almost the same with a couple of new readings. Rather than have the full-blown fixed income or equity or private wealth, all you're going to get in the core is more of an overview rather than the full thing. The full thing for fixed income and for equity, well, that comes in the portfolio management pathway. Portfolio management pathway for those two there. And private wealth management, of course, comes in the private wealth pathway. They have jigged things around a little bit in terms of order. So on performance measurement, you will see GIPs, but other than that, it's the same material. Now then, if you choose the portfolio management pathway, plus the core I've just mentioned there, what do you have? Well, you have pretty much almost the same, minor changes, almost the same as you have in 2024. So those of you who are concerned about having to learn it all again, no, you could learn the same material, but give yourself a bit more time and do it in February. Now, there are in total 8 readings in the portfolio management pathway. Just to count them out here, and these have all been specifically disclosed. So in equity, we've got the three more technical readings. The first of these is in the core. So index-based strategies, active equity investing, You've also got the portfolio construction coming in there as well too. So two active and one of the index, that forms the equity. And then for fixed income, you've got the kind of three more technical areas like the liability driven, the yield curve strategies and the credit strategies. Exactly the same as 2024, no difference at all. And then you've got one institutional case study that you'll recognize, and you've also got the trade strategy and execution. None of that material has changed. None of it has changed. So, in conclusion, if you want to do the 2024 version but do it in February, then do this pathway. Now, if you're looking at this and thinking, well, I want to perhaps focus on a different pathway for multiple reasons, as I mentioned earlier on, let's look at the private markets pathway. Well, here you have seven, and these are brand new readings you haven't seen before. Now, in CFA Level 1, you have seen some material like private structures, general partner, limited partners. You've seen that before and partly in Level 1. Obviously, now it's Level 3, it's going to be more depth. But these are all readings here. So the the private investments and structures, first reading, GP LP perspective, second one, private equity, private debt, special situations, real estate and infrastructure. So I can remember lots of candidates I've met over the years, particularly working in areas like real estate and infrastructure, who've told me, David, that the stuff they're studying has really no relevance at all. And I know from meeting many candidates over the years, they would have much have preferred picking something more relevant, much more useful for their career. And by the way, notice that if you choose this pathway here, you're not getting any more fixed income, one of those, that kind of crucial area that some people find very difficult. Finally, the private wealth pathway. Do you advise clients in your career, in your role? This is mostly new content. However, you're going to recognize some parts of estate planning, for example, some parts in how we think about risk and return as well. The IPS material, very common. So when we talk about the private wealth management industry, you're going to recognize wealth planning, investment planning, preserving, advising, and transferring. There are some common areas, but I'd say it's mostly new. If you work with high net worth or ultra high net worth clients, there are specific areas like working with the wealthy that focuses particularly on those higher ultra net worth clients. So guys, going back one moment to that decision that we talked about here, that would be my message to you, is to consider all these factors. You've also got the costs involved, the idea of perhaps rebuying materials or different registration fees. Check out the costs as well too. But my point, guys, here is you have got time. Even if you want to use the same material, you could go for 2025. Now, to finish off, I want to talk a little bit about retaking and this question about what should I do differently. Now, over the years, everyone's different in their journey, but there are some common things that happen to people along the way. Perhaps could be a big driver of why they didn't get through first time. The biggest driver, I would say, is practice. That when someone's retaking, if you ask what's the number one thing they're going to do differently, is to add a lot more practical practice, especially to time, especially using the exam formats, whether it might be simulations or physically typing it. Now, running out of time means you don't get to do as much practice as the people who pass. So, this thing about missing out chunks of important parts of your studies. When I talk about vital practice, let me give you a few of them here. Starting off with when you're first going through, did you go through the blue box examples, CFA blue box examples? Now, if you look at those people that passed, you're gonna find there that the vast majority of people did go through those CFA blue box examples. Now you might say, well, I didn't use it for level 1, didn't use them for level 2. But you're competing here with candidates that have done this. Highly recommend. For the end of chapter questions, CFA Institute, remember that we have Kaplan video debriefs now as well. I highly recommend that you, as you move through the material, that you are both going through the blue boxes and the end of chapter questions, because your competition out there is doing that. Next thing, the probably one of the most important things that people sometimes miss out on, don't realize, have no idea about, is the review or review. Now, guys, for many years in London, myself and some of my colleagues have been running 5-day review courses where you receive a really chunky Q&A book full of constructive response and some item sets as well. I'd say though it's dominated by constructive response as well. And on that week, you have a chance to you sit down and you physically work all the solutions and they're talked through. Now, in the on demand and video world that we have, we've recreated that with no time constraints. So every single question in this review, much more than a week, by the way, you can get a chance to practice online, and also full access to all the questions. And then every question has a video debrief as well. Now, by physically having a go at these, working these questions, by typing out your answers. All the answer formats are as they should be for the exam, that they show you how to approach them. You're getting about, I say you're getting 3 to 4 weeks of practice. For example, guys, for the February season, running this in London, running it every weekend, working with a room full of candidates, and they had like 7 hours of practice every weekend over 5 weekends. So you can get the same practice, and you can get more than a week's worth in our on demand. Now, if you look at the benefit of that, practicing to time, it covers all the topics. If you haven't found our final review, you haven't found those questions, highly recommend you do so. Did you use the essay writing workshop? Now we have a 1-day, so 1-day essay writing workshop online, and you get a chance to submit your constructive response questions. These are new questions you've never seen before that are going to be graded. They're graded by CFA graders, giving you a score, giving you exam feedback as well, grading feedback. So useful, the essay writing workshop, getting some feedback, making sure you're on track. The essay writing workshop's normally held, I'd say, 3 to 4 weeks before the exam window. On the mocks, of course, there are lots of mocks around. Did you do the Kaplan mocks as well? We have 6 mocks, pretty tough. What we have though with our mocks that a lot of people rave about is that we have a video debrief for every answer. Right, so you have to kind of pore over the answer, trying to work it out. Going to help you get to why and the relevant content pretty quickly as well. So when I talk to people perhaps who are planning a resit, first thing I would start by saying is to work backwards and say, okay, well, for the mocks, how long did that take? Probably you want a couple of weeks on the mocks if you're adding in the CFA mocks or the mocks as well, of course, giving yourself time to rest after a mock and get the most learning out of it. And then for the review, gonna take I think about 3 weeks, at least 3 weeks, maybe longer. Give yourself time to work all the questions, and actually work them to time and type them out. Very probably about 3 to 4 weeks. So your review period, you're looking at really, I think about 4 to 6 weeks would work ideally. And then you're going to think about giving yourself time again to work on strengthening other areas. Let's talk about the other areas. Now, sometimes, you go through the program and you know yourself there are areas you need to work on. Typically for level 3, whether it's currency, derivatives, fixed income, in particular. And within the core, there are areas that are still there, like derivatives, for example, will still be there. So yes, you could always decide to divert away from fixed income, but there are areas that will still be there. Maybe there are other areas like currency too. So that would be an important thing here, to make sure you have the right resources. And what a lot of people do when they're retaking that I think is beneficial is to work with us as instructors. By gosh, they get their money's worth. That's what I recommend you do here. So whether it's via the forum or instructor link or via the courses, basically you can get help and ask plenty of questions. Results are out. I had plenty of messages in the last week from people who I know very, very well. Many candidates know very well. I might never have met them alive, but I've met them via these questions. And they've always mentioned that too. Thank you for your help with the questions. So, guys, use the support that we're offering you here at Kaplan. Okay, just to come back to where we started then here, going to rewind for one moment here and come back to the this choice. First thing I'm going to say to you is, if it was me, if I was your coach and I was advising you, I would advise you to give yourself plenty of time when you're retaking. To change what you're doing and add in far, far more practice. Check out your strategy the first time around. When we compare the things to add back in here, how many of these things perhaps did you do? What are the things that you ran out of time or didn't get a chance to do? This will make an enormous amount of difference. Guys, when you're thinking about the pathways, consider the things we've been talking about. Hope you found that useful. As always, we're here to support you. Guys, if you want to reach out or ask us any questions, I'm glad to hear from you. And guys, look forward to seeing you on the courses. All the best.